professionally. On this note, I welcome all of us and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much as the Executive Director for Center LSD, Mr. Mondo Sasa. Ladies and gentlemen, like I still say, well, at the point where I want to bring our resource person, and I would say that for me, it's gratifying to have such a person here to come share knowledge with us in this particular area, particularly because I think that without sounding important, there will be very few people that have really touched strategic management the way they've been involved in strategic management. Our resource person was the registrar of the Strategic Management Center, which was the center that revived the first MBA program in strategic management, MBA strategic management in Nigeria, way back in 1998. And it's very you note that in 1998. And that center produced the first set of MBA students who were MBA strategic management certified by the year 2000, 1999 to 2000. And then in metamorphosized to become the first and the second registrar of the Institute of Strategic Management of Nigeria, which was the direct offshoot from that strategic management center. And he was the registrar for 8 years. And in that capacity, he drove the knowledge of strategic management, not only in Nigeria, across the world, running training programs in different parts of the world. I don't want to name all the right. When I tell you different parts of the world, I know exactly what I'm talking about. And when he left that office, he now took up the registrarship of the Nigerian Air Force training and Nigerian Air Force School of Accounts and Finance, which is where he's currently is functioning. Still driving strategic management, driving strategic leadership, driving governance. So I feel very, very honored to have him come share with us this morning. And I'm convinced he will do justice to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, please help me welcome our resource person today, Mr. Adeyemi Makade. FSA, fellow of the Institute of Strategic Management.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me? Yes, sir. So, I mean, this will be an encumbrance. You know, I'm used to using my boat as a drive. You know, in Lagos, many of us drive with one hand, the other hand on the phone, or it's hanging at the door window. I don't know how it is in Abuja. Mr. Monday Osasa, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for the confidence imposed in me. A lot of things have been said about me. I'm hoping that in the next few hours I will have justified the high pedestal, you know, that I've been placed. Having said that, I want to welcome each and every one of you to this session. I am excited because from the introductions that we have had, we come from diverse backgrounds, except that I didn't hear anyone from industry, from the anybody from the corporate world here. It's basically government, NGO, you know, which is okay. There's a lot of commonality, you know, in organizations. And as some of us who have management background may know, the evolution of management thought actually was not driven by people who studied management. They were essentially driven by people who studied mathematics, science, and technology, and so on and so forth. So, compartmentalizing management under business is for the sake of convenience. Every organization, irrespective of the kind of business they do, actually require effective and efficient management systems to ensure that they accomplish the purpose for which they are established. And so my joy is that we have people from diverse backgrounds and we will be able to leverage from each of our experiences as a matter of feedback. And it will also give us the opportunity of knowing that indeed there is a field of management that helps everybody, irrespective of their backgrounds, to be able to manage their organizations effectively. I want to say, to some extent, I'm a living testimony. I was introduced as the registrar of Nigerian Yaba School of Finance and Accounts. I didn't study finance. I didn't study accounting. In fact, I hated numeracy when I was younger. But at a point in life, I understood the importance of numeracy. You know, when we were being taught mathematics back then, those of us who didn't love math, we never really knew the importance of, I mean, once we have left the area of arithmetic, addition, multiplication, division, and what? And subtraction. We felt that we're okay with that. That's just okay. All these, algebra, formula, and the rest of it, X1 and the rest of it, what does it amount to? But it took some time for us to know that those are actually very critical for, logical thinking, science, and then technological development. To the extent that today in Nigeria, you want to agree with me that the greatest beneficiaries of the boom in property business, real estate in Nigeria are not actually those who studied estate management. They are not even the architects and the engineers. Who are they? The lawyers. So if you want to transact in any property, the lawyer will just wait for you to complete all the whatever. Everything will be concentrated on his table.
And he gets his heavy cost.
And that was how I also got to understand why they refer to themselves as the learned people. Because if you have had an insight into what they do in school, you will see that they tried as much as possible in those 5 years in the university law department to touch almost everything so that they will not be caught unawares. And so you will have lawyers in the court who are talking about velocity and speed. They're trying to defend their client who is accused of manslaughter or whatever. And they want to tell you that the speed at which he was driving was not enough, to cause the kind of damage. So for us, who didn't have the privilege of going to law school, we have a covering under strategy and strategic management, which is even superior, and which, as we will get to know, is actually even the foundation of everything that we have here. Now, I will be talking about, this presentation is about strategic management as a key to sustainable performance. You note that I didn't qualify the performance, whether it's organizational or individual, because this is a presentation that applies to both the individual and then organizations. And then you will see a keyword there. I mean, 2 keywords: sustainable success. Sustainable success. Strategies are concerned with 3 key things: change, advantage, and sustainability. Change, advantage, and sustainability. Change because, I will come back to the slide later. Change because we all understand and we all map it actually that the only constant thing is change. And that is the truth. Nothing remains static for too long. Nothing remains static for too long. So when we have statements like is rooted in the same spot or we have been at the same spot, it is not true. Because when you are standing at the same spot, those who were behind you, who kept moving no matter how slowly, will eventually overtake you. And so your position actually changes with each passing person who overtook you. So there is nothing really like stagnancy. What you have is retrogression. And when you think you are still on the same spot. But in actual fact, we are retrogressing. So change happens all the time. And the most dangerous kind of change is one that happens without you noticing. Because at that point, you even lose the luxury of reacting. You know, you only lose the luxury of reacting. I mean, if you see things happen, like they say, nobody tells a blind man that there is a war in the market, there is a crisis in the market. He's blind, he can't see. But when he begins to hear the footsteps stampede, he knows that something is actually wrong. Even though it might be too late for him to be proactive, but he could still find a way by being reactive to that change that is happening around it. But we are saying that there are some change that happens that we may not even have the opportunity of reacting until we are submerged in it. So strategists take change as a very, very important element of life that we must not toy with. The second is that strategists believe that we are in a world of competition, a world of, in some cases, dog eat dog, cutthroat competition. And so, whether it is at a natural level or at a strategic level, which we'll get to those details later, you discover that there is a continuous competition, even with ourselves and our environment. And so when you have such an environment that is constantly changing, meaning it is dynamic and in some cases turbulent, you need to do something that will ensure that you are sustainable in what you are doing. So that when you are succeeding, that success is sustainable. We heard of Millennium Development Goals, right? And after how many years? After 10 years, we now have the sustainable. So why do you have the sustainable development goals? We are saying that the Millennium Development Goals we talked about is not ended. We need to do what? We need to sustain it. So strategists also believe in sustainability. I mean, in creating advantage first, and then the third one is sustaining that advantage. So in the light of change, we must create a kind of advantage that will help us to keep our heads above water, and then do that on a sustainable level, so that will not be like individuals or organizations that were successful yesterday, but are nowhere to be found today. When I was growing up, I mean, barter was the thing. I know barter was so popular and monopolistic when it came to shoes that we thought it was a Yoruba company, because shoes in Yoruba is a barter. Every child has to buy container to go to school. Different kinds of shoes. If you take your children to barter, it's like you are taking them to Disney Wonderland. But where is barter today? There was Leonard Trump. By the time I'm going to the Air Force Comprehensive School in Badon. Pardon me pointing, I still think I'm in Lagos. So you see the Leonard, the relic factory there. I used to know about Leonard's before I got to see the relic company, the font. I mean Leyland, sorry. Leyland, not Leonard. Leonard is another shoe company. Leyland Trust. So, and then there used to be a bread in Ibadan, very famous, very popular. They call it Ajayi bread. Ajayi bread was so dominant in the market that if you travel to Ibadan, came back to Lagos, and you don't bring Ajay bread home, then people will query, suspect whether you actually went through Japan or not. But a few months after the proprietor of Ajay bread died, Ajay bread also died because there was no strategy in place to sustain, the dominance of Ajay bread. And I'm sure all of us are familiar with different kinds of brands that have suffered that fate, and even individuals that have suffered, such fate. While I was sitting down there, I just read a report of, I don't know how many of you used to know the gentleman called Ayon Babasi. Ayon Babasi was an Olympian. He was at the 1984 Olympics in, I think, yes, it was in Atlanta. Not the 1996 one. Now, after Moscow in 1980, there was another Olympics in the US, which was, I think, was also in Atlanta in 1984. And he was one of the dominant, in fact, he dominated the Africa and the Commonwealth. He only fell short of a medal at the Olympics. You know what he does today? On the Lekki Aja axis, people see him trying to carry sand to fill potholes. He lived in America, stayed back in after the Olympics, got married, had children in the US, and still found himself doing that. Now, somebody will say, "Oh, Nigerians don't take care of their heroes." And I say, who is Nigeria? Everybody has a period of time that will be disorganized. And at that point, once you are off, in fact, it is a period where the period of windfall, that's when you should have a plan for the future. It happens to everyone, doesn't it? It happens to everyone. So strategy is what is missing. Now, Jim Rohn, said something. Let me start with what Professor said, that without a strategy, the organization is like a ship without rudder. Like a ship without rudder. And without a strategy, an individual is also like a ship without rudder. It is a rudder that directs the ship, as big as it is. The rudder is one of the smallest things in the ship, but without it, the ship will just be going, whichever way the wind blows. That's where it goes. In football, when somebody is facing this place and he shoots to that direction, even when the goal goes to that direction. So anyone who is not working with, who doesn't have a strategy, is like where the left is. Anywhere the wind blows, that's where it goes. If somebody opens a bread shop, a bread counter close to the house, you two will go and do what? Open a bread. And then when bread is no longer there, the person puts water, he discards bread and puts water. No direction. So strategy is key. And Jim Rohn said that success is 20% skills and 80% strategy. In other words, a man or woman who doesn't have technical skills or who is strategic has 4 times the chance of succeeding than someone who has the skills, the technical skills, but doesn't apply strategy. And the reason is very simple. You can outsource technical skills. You can outsource technical skills. Once you know the direction, you know where you're going, and you know how to get there, you get the people that will help you to get there. But if you have the skill, the technical skills, and you don't have the strategy, there's no way you can succeed. Because even if you have all the skills, you only score 20%. And in every school, 20% is a local failure. Conversely, the man who has strategy or the organizer that has strategy will always get the people that can fit into that strategy and with that strategy. Now I have explained all of it. Now, the emergence, so many management theories emerge, from the pre-scientific management thought to classical, to the neoclassical, and then to the modern thought. Or each succeeding one emerged because there was a gap in the previous one. Everybody looking for the perfect fit. And that happened because as the environment changed, the skills that were required for making it yesterday were no longer sufficient for today. And I must congratulate you because by being here, you have fulfilled one of the things we say in our institute. And I'm sure those in St. LSD may also have, been baptized into it. Now, that as an individual, if you are good today as you were yesterday, you will not be good enough for tomorrow. But the kind of skills that you needed to succeed yesterday are no longer applicable, even if they are still applicable today. If you don't develop yourself for tomorrow, you suddenly discover that you have become extinct. And the easiest analogy is in the area of technology. I was with a head of service, retired now, a state head of service, head of the civil service of the state. And he confessed to me that he doesn't know how to use an Android phone. But let me say he didn't. I don't know if they are afraid of himself. Now, if the HOS of a state civil service only goes about with Nokia 33, leave effectiveness. How can you even be efficient? How do you reach it? It means all the time there is only just one source of contacting him, either seeing him physically or. Whereas as you are seated there, you can track your order from China. As you are sitting there, you think just the country. So, and that tells you some of the reasons why we are where we are as a country. But that was a subnational of Nigeria. Doesn't know how to use. I also met someone yesterday who said, "Oh, I lost my phone and I lost all my contacts." I said, "I didn't know. How do you save your contact? When you get home, ask your son to help you save all your contacts on." That's how fast things are changing. That the knowledge of yesterday will not be enough for you to thrive in the environment of today. Now, I will talk about define strategic management, and then we'll go into the core of the strategy, because strategic management is simply the application of strategy in management. But the Institute of Strategic Management, which prides itself as a connoisseur of strategy in Nigeria, defines strategic management as the integrated process of management in which all executives in the organization engage in continuous rethinking and auditing of themselves, the organization and the environment, for the purpose of developing, implanting, implementing, and controlling organizational direction to effect change, build distinctive advantage, and ensure all-time successful performance. In this definition, you will see the three items that I've mentioned: change, advantage, and sustainability. If any one of those is missing, strategy is not complete. Now, I can say that strategic management is the highest level of management. It is not only the broadest. It encompasses all other levels of management because it has integrated all of them. Not by discounting them, but by integrating all of them into a whole. And so, like I said, it is rooted in all fields of human endeavor, and it is applicable in all organizations, whether public, business, political, or civil society. Now, what is the origin of strategy? I talked about natural and strategic competition a while ago. Strategy evolved as the world evolved. There was a time where in the world, what mattered was might. Used to say might is right. So it is a person with superior physical power, strength, that subjugates every other person to himself. And so becomes the dominant person. That was the day when Hercules or Mr. Atlas would be the predominant players, in the market. And the interesting thing is that even in combative sports, where physical strength is paramount, you discover that it is not actually the strongest that wins. It is strategy that wins. And that was what, they call it. we will distinguish tactics and strategy, And that was why in Muhammad Ali, who should be in the modeling business. You understand? Handsome. I mean, you hardly see things on his body, fresh looking, smooth talking, quick moving. Which other to describe him was the world heavyweight champion for many years. Somewhat, for me, most women don't like boxing. Like my wife, when my children are watching boxing, say, "Ha, my friend, are you a fight? Come on, Anthony Joshua is now." Actually, it's the money we look at. If you see when the fight is going on, you don't want to watch. I commend wives who go to watch their husbands fighting. Now, the Muhammad Ali came at the time that there was someone they called Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston was so prolific as a boxer that all he needed was to just hit you any part of the body. His own is not to. He's not somebody who wants to jab and win on points. He wants to kill you. If his punch hits you on the shoulder, you have a dislocated shoulder. And if he hits the other one, that's it. And so when Muhammad Ali was to fight Sonny Liston for the World Championship, people said, this is suicidal. But you know what? He knocked out Sonny Liston. And that was when the art and science became combined in boxing. If I ask you who is the most gifted, talented Nigerian footballer of all times, 9 out of 10 will mention one name. Mention the name. JJ Okocha. Bros. If you were looking like you're saying maybe the most successful. Yes. But if you are talking about skills, that's 20%. That's 20%. Even the great Ronaldinho said he learned. But with due respect, even if Okocha was sitting here, I'm telling that he didn't have otherwise, strategy was so absent in his play that he didn't even win the African footballer, which Kanu won 3 times. And they were playing and when you look at Kanu, like it looked like a sickly person. I'm using this as metaphors for us to be able to understand the importance of strategy. Kanu was so free that I'm sure the first time he went to a football field, the coach will say, I said, no, this one, you cannot play football. One should be doing swimming. Or maybe even basketball is physically exerting. But till date, for me and for many of you, it is the most successful Nigerian footballer living or dead. That's true. Because, I will talk a lot of sports. So if you don't like sport, you must start looking at it. Sheikh Bami wrote an article more than 30 years ago in the Guardian. He said football is 5% physical skill and 95% mental. And when you see modern day football, you will appreciate what I'm talking about. In modern day football, you will have a goalkeeper having more assists than a midfielder in the team. Why? Because the goalkeeper has the objective, the overarching objective of a team in mind, not his own, what is objective as a goalkeeper. What's the objective of a goalkeeper? To keep the ball from scoring. So if he does that, has he not done well? If he keeps a clean sheet, has he not done well? But if his team doesn't score, have they won the match? No. And so you will find an Emerson who will save, almost a goal scoring chance, and then immediately launch. Compare it to what we have in the days of Emmanuel Okala and Ogedegbe and the rest of them. Sorry, many of you are but even some people see once the keeper catches the ball, he bounces it a couple of times and then just kicks it. God shall play. Everything requires. Now, how do you, as an individual, fit into the phenomenon of strategic management, particularly if you are not a management student? How is strategic management different from traditional and general management? Now, strategy as a phenomenon has existed with living organisms in their endeavor to live and coexist in the midst of disequilibrium in the ecology. It is that disequilibrium in the ecology that conjures competition. And what are the possible disequilibriums in the ecology? You will notice that practically every war that is going on, either at communal level or at global level, has to do with territory. Is that not so? People want to control territories, lands, minerals, and every other thing that are buried under it. And so, why is Israel and the Palestinians? Why Israel and the Palestinians? Why are they fighting? They're fighting over Gaza. And they've been at it, and some people say it's going to be an unending war. It is over territory. So every living organism is faced with that disequilibrium in the environment, which introduces competition, whereby it becomes a struggle. Even in the family, among siblings, I'm talking of young children. Don't you see the competition? Everyone wants himself or herself to be the focus of attention of the parents. In fact, some people say when a woman is pregnant with the next child, the one that was the last will start falling sick. That one has not been proven, scientifically, but perhaps somebody is in the health area, they can move with it. Let's research it. Because it's like another person is coming that will command the attention from my mother. And so the way the world is, at the level of natural competition, you see a lot of disproliferation to the extent that even the most unambitious person who says, okay, I'm not interested in any expansionist agenda. Let me just be in my corner and let me be. Will the world let him be? No. He just wants to be in his own little corner. But you know what? By the time all other corners are conquered, the focus will now be the next focus. That small corner that you think you are comfortable with, somebody will come there and take it. And that is why willingly, at some point, that survival instinct will be activated. But that is at the level of natural strategy. In other words, you have already been enveloped by the threat, by the problem. And so you are now doing what? You are now reacting. And in most cases, one is actually consumed because you have been too late to build the capacity, the capability, the competence that you require to fend off invaders. To the extent that even if you don't have expansionist, tendencies, you must have a strategy that is protective. But the absence of any, I'm not even saying protective strategy is a good strategy, but you stand a chance of surviving. And this applies to individuals as well as businesses. I don't know the most rural areas in Abuja area, but I can tell you, if you are selling water in that place and you are doing well, if you are not careful, Costa Rica water will come from Lagos and take over the market. To the strategists, no price is too small. To the strategists, no price is too small. So strategy is very, very key. And so ecologists recognize two primary forms of competition, natural and strategic. Natural competition thrives on chance and law of probability. There is no need for foresight or commitment. What matters is adaptation to the way things are. And when opportunities become palpable, when they become obvious, naturally, people will want to leverage them. But at the level of strategic competition, the strategist actually goes further by creating the opportunities and not just waiting for opportunities to happen. So by contrast, strategic competition compresses time. Competitive shifts that might take generations to evolve are made to occur in a few short years. Rather than adapt to the way things are, strategists reconstruct the strategic arena by combining intelligence, imagination, accumulated resources, and coordinated behavior to confront competition and to search for competitive advantage. When that line says strategic competition compresses time, what it's saying in essence is that, and we'll get to that when we come to moves. We have tactical moves, we have strategic moves. What that statement is saying is that something that may ordinarily, left to happenstance, can take maybe 5 years to accomplish. the strategies can accomplish it in 6 months. So if you are busy with the plan, even in terms of security of strategies, you may even have a strategy, right? And your strategy is crafted in a way that will take you 5 years. Somebody who comes up with a superior strategy can achieve and exceed your target in less than 5 years. And if you are comparing the two of them, which of them is now more competitive, better positioned in the market? It is one that had a superior strategy. Now, the strategy itself, many scholars in strategic management believe that strategic competition or the application of strategy can be traced to the military. That they were the first organizations or institutions to apply strategy in, in their activities. And the strategy starts from what, before its military goes to the war, there must be a reason. Is that not so? Nobody just wants to fight a war. There must be a price. When they identify that price, when a country or a state or community identify that price, and they think the only way to get that price is by going to war, the decision is taken to go to war. But even before they go to war, they have to now, from the objective, they must now think back to the present. And that was how operations, especially after the Second World War, after a major war, the generals that prosecuted that war actually are eased out of the military of the system. And one of the reasons is that the strategies that they used and worked, if they remain in the system, they will think that is always the best way to get it. And so many times, especially in the days when wars were being fought, after the Second World War, a lot of generals retired at 40, 42, 45, with many years of active service still left. So many of them found themselves in the big corporations in America. Don't forget, they already have, if you read about the military industrial complex, you know that there is already a relationship between the military and the corporate world, because they are the ones that actually even produce most of the hardware and things they use in prosecuting work. So they simply got into the corporate world and discovered that the strategy adopted in fighting a war is also applicable in business. Because wars are fought basically to protect or gain territory. And in business, competition in business is targeted at market share. So it's similar. The only difference here is that in business, you don't necessarily have to shed blood. You don't necessarily have to kill directly, but you can kill instrumentally. So that was how strategy evolved. But even at that, in the military, and that is, I'm going to emphasize it because one of the challenges that we have in Nigeria is that we didn't utilize our moments of peace in building resilience as a nation. And one of the things I learned, especially when it concerns security, is that the moment you begin to feel so secure that you think you don't really need to pay attention to security, then danger is already at the door. But the reason why you're secure is because the measures that you put in place. Those who wanted to, attack, possibly saw those things and it's like, no, this guy is fortified. And the moment you drop your guard, they also know. So I've dropped your guards. And that's the time they move in. Otherwise, how does a country like Nigeria, or how did a country like Nigeria get to a situation where we are practically begging, the state is begging criminals to stop perpetrating criminal acts? Come on, in your widest dream, you think that is possible? It's not possible. But that is desperation, because at the time that we need, it will also be a kind of strategy. Let's keep them busy by making them important. Let's beg them now while we are building capacity. But you see, but that all means that we already lost the initiative. And that's why they said for you to prepare, for you not to have war, you must prepare for war. And you prepare in the time of peace. And that's what they call about administration of peace by the military. Once the war is declared, there is a strategy to win the war, and there is a strategy to keep the price, what has been won. And that is why you find the Western countries like the United States of America going to practically every part of the world, especially after the Second World War, with a lot of aid, with a lot of support. They are not being wasteful. They are buying your loyalty. Yeah. Buying your loyalty. And that is, that's why practically everywhere the influence spread. And of course, the Soviet Union also joined that race. When they saw what was happening, they also joined that race. And who is the latest player in that race now? China. They are investing those monies. It is part of a larger strategy. At the point that the US thought they have already bought all these countries, so they started wanting to do some giving conditions. China moved in. And so Africa is now like, Africa and the developing world are now like a beautiful bride, but they are Asu, not paradise. Asu. Eventually will be roasted for dinner. But we just enjoying it. But there is a way we can enjoy those benefits without necessarily, selling out ourselves for eventual whatever. So, at least in the time of peace, it's going to build resilience, and that is one of the benefits, one of the things that we need to understand in strategy. Now, in modern days, the number of organizations that employ the strategy tools have expanded far beyond military organizations. Consequently, the application of strategy has been extended to all areas of human organization affected by strategic change. Now, what is the nature of strategy? What is the nature of strategy? Strategy is effectiveness modulated, and I will explain what that means. In management, there is efficiency and there is effectiveness. What is efficiency? Can we briefly discuss? What does it mean to be efficient?
Minimal resources.
Minimal input to get maximum impact. Now, is that a bad thing? However, a country is rich in, say, cassava production, to the extent that even when you throw cassava waste, stick or whatever somewhere, it will germinate. And then that country or that state now decides to focus attention in more cassava production. When it spends maybe 10 times what it makes from cassava to import, say, rice. If it's making more cassava, it is being efficient, but it is not effective in the sense that cassava is not really what the state needed. I just use that as an example for us to understand why you can be doing things right without doing the right things. You can be doing things right without doing the right things. Now, strategy is basically focused on effectiveness. The assumption is that once you are effective, you are likely going to be efficient. And so the first thing that strategy is concerned with is what should I do? Not what do I want to do. We'll do some, I'm not one for Nigeria bashing, but we'll do some Nigeria bashing in this session. I believe it's a closed session. And even if it's social media, you see, because we are in an age of social media now, that once whatever you say, just be ready to confront it outside, outside, and be ready to defend it. So my defense is that it is an academic environment, and there is immunity in academic environment. So whatever we say in an academic environment is just to drive home our points. Now, not that I'm afraid of anything. I'm not a person of interest. Now, in Nigeria today, you find over centralization, where some people are at the center and they think they know what everybody needs. So somebody in the Ministry of Works may now come up with a policy that we will build 100 kilometers of road in every local government in Nigeria. Is that a bad thing? But in many communities, what they really need is water, which may even cost cheaper than the cost of food. Some require health centers. Some require schools. Some require security. All of us, at the end of the day, actually need that. What I'm saying in essence is that strategy does not apply a one-cap-fits-all mentality. That question of the right thing, which is effectiveness, must be answered before we can even proceed. The second is that strategy is applicable in dynamic and turbulent situations. Now, when you say something is dynamic, it means it is changing. Now, when you say it is turbulent, what are we saying? I know that, yeah. Please, explain that katakata in English. I understand it's katakata actually. It is stormy. Yes. It is stormy, unpredictable, unstable. It's like anything can happen. Yeah, things are changing. You can see here things are changing. Of course, when a plane, is taxiing for takeoff, it's changing position from the ground to the sky. Those ones are expected, right? And at the point it gets to cruising, what do you call it? Altitude. Where even the pilot can come and chat with you in the cabin. And then the time will come when start descending. All those changes, all those dynamisms are foreseen. But when it's there in the air, and suddenly it runs into a storm, turbulence, what's the first thing that happens today? What's the first announcement? What's the first thing that happens? The seatbelt button. I mean, yes. So fasten. Remember this one because Max here offended me yesterday. They didn't serve any entertainment because of turbulence. And when we landed, they didn't hand the thing over to us. Thank you. Now, you see, that is it. I didn't. Because I thought it was not very important. But when I go to the hotel, the first thing, I didn't even have enough strength to remove my nose. The first thing was food. Whereas, if I had asked for my right, the party would have given me even two, because almost all of us didn't ask. I would have even given of that salsa one. And they will ask me for it. And I've become overgrateful to it. So, consciousness, there is some strategy is about deliberateness, consciousness. Because nothing will come to you just like that. Just like that. One of my favorite politicians in Nigeria is someone who said, power is not served a la carte. Yes. And honestly, whether one likes it or not, and there are different strategies. You see, you will get to strategic advantages. In every sector, in every industry or sector or segment of society, you have three types of players. You have the dominant players, you have the runner-up players, and then you have the weak operators. In the fizzy drinks industry, for instance, carbonated drinks, soft drinks, which companies do you regard as? We are talking nationally now. Which brand do you regard as leader? Coca-Cola. Okay, somebody said Pepsi. Okay. And that's why they even use that in Nigeria, because in the US, Pepsi is king. But in Nigeria, Pepsi is not the king. Coca-Cola. Even Coca-Cola is no longer king. I was telling you this. Wait. You see, I said, like, you see that's one thing that we also, when we are trying to aggregate, when they say this is a leading brand in Nigeria, that brand may not even exist in some parts of Nigeria. But we are looking at aggregation and data, available data. When at the end of this program, I will forward the document to you for you to study. And the reason I'm saying so is because I'm indirectly involved in Right Foods, who are the producers of the big brand. And I want to tell you, as a matter of fact, that they have over 50% of the fizzy drinks market in Nigeria. And you know what? They got to that level even without one single advert on radio or television. We only started seeing the adverts a few months ago. They even advertise on CNN now. You know why? It's an onslaught to ensure sustainability. Now, since we're already there. What? Since we're already there. Okay. Just to inform us. That same company, the manufacturer of tea, they are refreshing us today. The drink that I drink that clown is not good enough. Let's see your game too. Anytime you see the owners of Biggie, just tell them that I am the chief, one of the chief marketers of the product. Now my area of involvement is very simple. You know, some of the things that you have, many times the big corporations just take strategy from their parent organizations with little or no consideration for local variables. Pepsi in the 80s and 90s competed, in fact, they gave Coca-Cola a run for their money in Nigeria. But how did they do it? Periodic promotional advertisements and freebies. Open, you see, by the but all of that also came at a cost. So at the end of the day, anytime we have a promotion running, they are running neck and neck with Coca-Cola. But after the promotion, people go back to because they didn't work on the products. They were enticing the consumer to buy because there is a freebie attached to it. One of the GMs in Coca-Cola, I'm happy the friends to the director of strategy here, Mr. Otado. I'm happy you call him Mr. Otado. Everybody is calling Pastor. I said, he's a pastor actually. I'm people from the open prayer. He said, you know, he's not an ordinary pastor. Now, what I'm saying is this: strategy is not about, it's about sustainability. And you see why sustainability keeps coming in. So Pepsi's approach was not sustainable. What did Biggie do? Biggie has the largest production line for fizzy drinks in Nigeria. Yes. Their production line is almost times 3 what Coca-Cola does. Wow. 11 products. Thank you. Now, if you go to Big, as far back as 3 years ago, if you wanted to get distributorship, you won't get it. Unless a sub distributor. And then they have the owners of it. It's a family-run business. And that is success. Where you see, because it's not just one man, the chances are there, and because of what they have on ground, they can survive. They are likely going to survive the family. Yes, because the way. In fact, they hit Coca-Cola in a lot of ways. Coca-Cola sent some of their young engineers for training without making them sign MOU. What do you call that MOU? What do you call the MOU? No, there is a name, there is a technical name for it. A bond. Without making them sign a bond. The reason I resigned from UEC in 2005 was because they wanted to send me to Zimbabwe and South Africa for training. But they had to sign a bond to remain 2 years after I came back. I mean, I didn't even like the food business. I like food though, but because no, the thing too detailed to tell you how much, an ounce of onion, how many kg of jollof rice an ounce of onion will produce, and the rest of it up to even the chief accountant, up to the of the average. I mean, the knowledge industry. So I know it was a reason for me to put it. And I was doing well because I was trying to be efficient on the job. But for me, that's more than I wanted to do. So when I get opportunity, Untitled Chapter, like they say now. Now, where I'm going is that Coca-Cola did that without asking them to do it. And then when they came back, they were placed on the same salary they were before. What did they do? They doubled their pay, in some cases tripled, and they left until the last person.
So the knowledge that they acquired for Coca-Cola is what they using right?
Yes, part of what they are using. You see where, what do we call it now? Nonchalance. You know, when you think that, and that's why the Bible says, if you think you are standing, yes. They did that. Yeah. They were not sensitive to the market in their mind. Pepsi tried it and failed. You know, they didn't tell you, but in my mind, I'm like, that is
in the digital sense.
yeah, this one, you know. I know where those people's factory is. It's not even in one, a Sosa, one Jebu, rural, whatever. That's what the Indians actually have to work. So you don't even see, you don't even know. Coca-Cola is right there in front of everybody, everybody knows it. But they are in one place that people don't even. And from that place, in 2 hours, they have reached Benin. In 2 hours, they are in Lagos. In 1 hour, they are in Ibadan.
Central.
Yes. Another thing was the owners of the company built their competence in the logistics business. And you know, when you are into manufacturing, it's not the production of the product that is important. So they already have the logistics network in place. So moving products was not handy. And they were effective, they were efficient because they were not even spending money on promotional activities. I had my friend, you guys are not advertising. He said we will soon start advertising. And when I will see their first advert, I saw it on CNN, and they are using the big stars. We get the Guinness Book of Record holder in dance. What's her name now? Coffee. Abi Coffee. Coffee is one of their brand ambassadors. And you know why they're doing that? You check that advert, you will notice that they are targeting the premium market. Because also, all other products that are competing with Coca-Cola succeeded at the mass, whatever level to some extent. But when you get to blue chip events, you know, you understand what I mean? We know blue chip companies, but so you just transcribe the blue chip events, the 5-star hotels, and the rest. You will not see those other things. We will see Coca-Cola brands. But today, we have products in the 5-star hotels. Even in Marriott, that just opened 2 weeks ago. You won't see big cola, but you will see right foods there. Breeze, yeah. Smooth, yeah. And that's a place where they hardly have local competitors. You know, they are even in court with Coca-Cola now. Coca-Cola to go and use one of their brands, that one, you know, the Lion something. They also now try to, they stole it, let me put it that way. Yeah, so there is a case on pretense now in Lagos, the federal court in Lagos. So that is when the lion now is stealing from the ant because they have become successful. But like I always want, sustainability is still key. Because the report I read also says that Coca-Cola is not sleeping pretty. Because they have the muscles, the financial muscles and the rest, Why these guys can invest $100 million in a plant? If Coca-Cola wants, they can put $500 million in investment into the business. But that they are watching. Two reasons. Number one, they want to see whether these guys will gas out. Sustainability. Number two, there is a campaign against carbonated drinks now. Nobody. No business against them. So Coca-Cola is watching to see how it will affect consumer behavior. And the report says that we should not be surprised to find Coca-Cola even going into uncharted market before, like alcoholic brands. Now, those are the kind of things that the people in Biggie should also be thinking about. Yeah. Because in strategy, you must be actively conscious of your environment. And you have two environments, the internal environment and the external environment. So Biggie, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and the rest are part of the the external environment. Their own stakeholders, their staff, their customers, their distributors, and the rest are their internal stakeholders. And of course, the shareholders. Another advantage Biggie has, they are not on the stock exchange. So they can play with their funds. It takes 3, 4, 5 people to take a decision. There are no shareholders waiting for approval and the rest. The Nigerian Stock Exchange is not going to be breathing on their neck. Thank you. So there's a fleet-footedness in terms of decision making. There is no bureaucracy, but of course there is a price. You also get it wrong. You also get it wrong. So we have spent a lot of time on effectiveness and mobility. The second one, okay, we've got into dynamic and governance. So the third one, Mr. Otamos talked about it, invasive and elusive. In some cases, abstractive. In other words, it's many times strategy is not palpable. But the actions that the company or the individual is taking is what you will see. You will see the action, but you don't know why certain actions are being taken. And that is why the military wants to attack you from the front. They pretend that they are coming through the back. So you turn your back to them and they can hit you unawares. So usually, strategy is this. But many times, if you make it so bold, in African, in most Nigerian languages are the equivalent of this proverbial statement I want to make. In Yoruba, they said, if you don't, until you get hold of the sword, you cannot ask about who killed your father. But if you don't have the sword, even if you know who killed your father, what will you? You will just give you. So, when you are too bold about, but we are very, I think in Africa, we are very good at that at the individual level. We cover our goal, our objective. We don't like people to know. So that, but we are not afraid of human beings, we are afraid of witches. By which we use one person to know another. Somebody said something that if you want to do something, I will tell this particular person, you say, so we come and work here. But do you think it will work? Because I don't think it will work. So people are running away from the person. But that is, we will not accept this one if I tell you. But I'm sure you understand. So even the Bible says it, but don't let us go into it, because we quote the passage and their ministers there. So they won't think all other things I'm saying are not correct. So strategy is elusive and elusive. Talking about this quote is actually driving home the issue of and effectiveness. That rowing harder doesn't help if the boat is headed in the wrong direction. So they are rowing harder to nowhere. You understand? Yes. And that's why they say these days it's not about effort, it's about what? Results.
Yes.
And that's why when the president says we are doing our best, your best is not enough. But he knew what he was trying to communicate something that we are working. That we are working. But I'm sure that was as I would say, a leader does not say that kind of a thing. When you told me you are doing your best, and I can see it's not enough, I think the most reasonable thing is for you to leave. So just well, so it should have just been right. Yes. I know one thing about communication. No, don't let us go there. Because I believe that Oga talked about transformational leadership. There are no problems in this world that don't have, cannot be fixed. No matter how grave the problems are, it shouldn't be fatalistic. But it takes a leader. So I have a paper here, I don't have the time. I just brought it to see if we have time, just quickly look at it. To see how a leader should behave in a period of crisis. The first thing is that the leader must be visible.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Have to be visible.
Yeah, sure.
You see the way our children respond when they are in a kind of problem and we surface.
Yeah, sure.
They feel that something has come.
Yes.
Even if the oppressor can squeeze their daddy in 2 seconds, the daddy will say, "Hey, what's the problem? Come on, just be calm, just go home. I will handle the matter." And he goes. And then he gets back to the house, and the boy sees that the attitude of that person has changed. I said, "My daddy taught him this." So a leader is not meant to be visible, and then he must communicate. It's not part of strategy, because really, we will try to look at the etymology of strategy and see the word, the Greek word that formed that word strategy. And we see that leadership is a component of strategy. It's a component of strategy. The guy in Israel, the Israeli politics was almost consuming him. This Gaza matter just came, even the two sides, including Hamas was becoming like, these ones are not. So the two of them saw this crisis to boost their relevance again. You see, nobody is talking about in removing the Netanyahu. Well, it's like my job is to protect Israel. So now everybody is aligning in Israel, because he has made the problem to look like this is Israel. Not this one, not the politics. So everybody is aligning behind Netanyahu. That's what leaders who have a strategic plan orientation. I'm not saying the ones we have don't have the result of it. Now, I'll say what I say. This also is regarded as the one who has written the most impactful treatise on strategy. It says all men can see these tactics whereby I conquer. But what none can see is the strategy out of which victory is. Who is saying the moves, they see the tactics. But they don't know from what strategy it's about. Now, Yes, anything you can do. Okay. You want examples? Or what?
I think we are going to share the presentation.
No, Saturday. They share the presentation. Now, the presentation available. Now, you will see that I've not done any definition of strategy. It is deliberate. By the time we finish this, each and every one of us will be able to give his own definition of strategy. You need the quote. What was I using in that? Okay, can see. Okay, I'll give you 30 seconds to complete it. You see, technology. The thing is, even there is an equipment that is transcribing what I'm saying. Except that at times the thing doesn't hear. You know, when Oga was talking about you are welcome, what if the thing wrote is Yahoo welcome? And I know there are no Yahoo questions. But it's okay. I mean, this is, you can see where technology is going. You know, on your phone now, you don't, even with WhatsApp, you don't need to type now.
It just pops up.
Yes, you can
Yes,
just speak to it.
we're talking, you type.
But be sure what the thing is typing. Because I saw something about one man that put a picture of his family on Facebook. And somebody whose battery, one of his employees, his battery had just 1%. He wanted to comment. Don't let me say what to put. When he couldn't correct it, it was the wrong auto, whatever, the thing put. So at times when you go, it does also check. Now we can move. Okay. Now, this domain of strategy, you can also call it elements of strategy, or the house, or the content of strategy, or the house of strategy. But what is simply telling us is that there are 4 key things about strategy. The first is the organization. And that organization can be you, it can be a body, it can be a company, it can be an individual. The organization is important because strengths and weaknesses reside within the organization. And you need to factor strengths and weaknesses in crafting your strategy. And a job person from Ondo State, Bayelsa, Rivers, Delta can say he wants to be the swimming champion of Nigeria in the next 5 years. Why? Because maybe in Naisa water, it's natural, it has the strength in terms of that. But we can't guarantee success. No. But the greatest swimmers are the Americans and the Australians, and they are no just there. Now, the environment is also key because opportunities and problems reside in the environment. So in strategy, we also factor the environment. The third one is the moods. You know, like I said, you cannot remain in the same place and expect things to happen. So all those activities that you carry out to achieve objectives, which is the last one, are broken also into 2. You have tactical moves and you have strategic moves. Not that one is superior, not that one is useless. The 2 of them, ordinarily, crafting a strategy, you have tactical moves because you have itemize step by step the things you do. Like Oga Osasa said, when you have a strategic plan, you have timelines, you have things to do, timelines by whom and the rest. it's like a blueprint. But where the strategic mind orientation comes is that if you have your eye constantly on the environment, you might discover that there is a move that you can make without necessarily going through all those step-by-step things that will take you directly to your objective. I used football initially, but a goalkeeper is to prevent the goal from being scored. But when you have a strategic goalkeeper who will see that every opposing player is in their own half in an attempt to score a goal. And then one of his own strikers is over there, maybe just waiting for. He may have been waiting for that opportunity for 90 minutes. That opportunity may come in the 90th minute, but he knew that it will come because they are already working with strategy. Somebody will always be waiting. You only make sure that he is not in your opponent's side. Once he is within his own time, and then the keeper catches the ball and then he sees the opportunity, he just throws it to the guy, and the guy goes ahead to score. The goalkeeper will now make an assist. But ordinarily, from football formation, who should be the people that make the assist? The midfield. But he has bypassed his own defenders, he bypassed the midfielders, and straight from the goalkeeper to the striker. But anyone without strategic mind orientation will just be following as it was yesterday, so is it today, and so no whatever intended. You understand? But the reality is that environment is critical. It moves. But if you don't have the objective, which may be short, medium, and long term, you must have it. And be conscious. Everybody in the organization will be conscious of it. That's why, if the goalkeeper thinks he can use a counter attack to score, and the striker is not properly positioned. At times you see the goalkeeper, if there's somebody to throw the ball to, they will now say, okay, oh yeah, let's follow tactics. So you should be able to switch between. And this one is also reinforcing what we have said, that direction is so much more important than speed. Many are going nowhere fast. And that's the way we still talking about effectiveness. Now, for you to craft a strategy, all the information you already have useful, but this is very key. But these are the 4 stages of strategy making process. The first thing an individual or an organization does is to set a vision. And what is a vision? In ISML, we will say a vision is a mental picture. A mental picture of a desirable future. We say it's a mental picture of a desirable future. In other words, your vision is not about what you are doing, but what you want your organization, or what you want to become. That's like a destination. That's a destination. But there are certain things that are important in coming up with a vision. The vision must be concise. In other words, it must be focused. There should not be any ambiguity about your operation. Also, it must be clear. It must have time horizon. You may not put 5 years, you may not put 10 years, but in your mind, there's a time horizon. So in crafting vision statements, you hardly find an organizer that will put a timeline. But in their mind, because there is no time horizon, this essence of urgency will not be there. Of course, when you get to strategic management process, those time horizons will now show up. We will also get to that. Your vision statement, like I said, is about your destination. And if you have a destination, it means you must design a vehicle, or you must have a vehicle that will take you to that destination. That vehicle is a mission. So your mission will include what you are currently doing and the things that you will do to achieve the vision that you have set for yourself. It doesn't end there. There must be strategic, we call it strategic imperatives. In the corporate world, they will call it values, core values. It's actually the same thing. You know, in professionalizing the field, there are some vocabularies that create to make it distinctive from what is generally known. Strategic imperatives will be talking about how to behave in an organization. You know, I was listening to a radio program on my way to the airport on Friday yesterday. One young lady and a young man representing, you know, back then, when a bank wants to send representative to a media house, what are the people you see? Senior managers, AGMs, and the rest. But these are guys under 30. Because the product they are talking about has to do with technology. You know, and the big guys there may not be able to communicate it. Of course, they originated the business, you know, the product. They originated the product for the bank. And they asked the guy if the product requires young people or members of the public, not necessarily young, who have ideas, business ideas, to send the business ideas to the bank. And then if the business ideas go through, the company, they have started it. They are just, you know, moving to the next stage. So they even brought those who have benefited from that product to the program. Now, the question came, how do I trust you that when I send my proposal, you will tell me, sorry, it can't fly, but somebody else will go and use it? You know, it's a possibility. It's not possibility. It happens in the banking. Please, who is standing me? Don't stop me abruptly. Let me land quickly. Okay. Now, you know the answer the guy did. He didn't have to think about it. He went into the core values of the webinar. So you know where it part. Our foundation is trust, integrity, transparency. The man said, I'm convinced. So the core values, strategic imperatives, are very important for an organization because they must not be, your values or behavior must not be incongruent to your vision. They must not. And also you want to be a preacher and then you are a liar. Not somebody trusts you. The day you come to the pulpit, once people come like this, they say, But, however, in reality, Saul became Paul. But at least there must be a story. There must be a story. And you know what? Even such a person will not just be thrown into a conflict like that.
Small. People get used to the new
I
reality.
don't know how many of you read the story of Dr. Omar. And you see, when you read such stories, something people may even call you if there is a genuine transition. It doesn't really matter. Eventually, your integrity will speak for you. Yes. So, but then, it's better not to damage it than fix it. It takes time to build trust. When you betray that trust, it may not be a dictator, but it may take so much more for you to build. Now, strategic imperatives very much. So, and then the last one, you must have critical success factors. And that is the place where timeline that we mentioned will now come in. But there must be a means of measuring the effectiveness of your strategy. I mean, I belong to an organization. It's a non-profit organization. And we have somebody heading it. And usually, every 5 years, we try to do a kind of appreciation to the person. And I said, come, if we do appreciation for this person, on the day of appreciation, what are the things we will say he has contributed to the organization that is done? If you want to appreciate something, you will say, we were here when he came.
But now,
This is where we are. And every organization does that regularly. You must do some evaluation. If you have 5 items, the person may be very good in 3, good in 1, he may not have succeeded in 1, but of course, every organizer has its own core. A business organizer, for instance, profit is key. So if the person succeeds in training of human resources, learning, it passes. The MDO, it passes. Innovation, it passes. That's why you are looking at the balance scorecard. I think there are 4 items there. Learning, it passes. Innovation, it passes. The other one, it passes. Then when it comes to finance, when it comes to finance, it fails. When it's not a church, even in a church, if you don't have excess, it's not called profit. In NGO, it's not called profit, but you must, your inflow must be more than your outflow for you to remain relevant and in business. So, if somebody in a business organization fails in the area of finance, they will now advise a person to go and look for a career in those areas. Because that one, that is 3/4 will not fly. But when a director in a business organization is doing well financially, even if somebody on the board comes and says the guy is not investing in manpower development, other director will do which manpower? Is it not the manpower that can produce this results? I'm not giving manpower, Jerry. Of course, it will take, if it is true, such a person will not be thrown out because it's not working. They will now find a way and train him to balance it. Because the core thing is getting it. And that's why it's easier to run business organizations than non. I tell people, it's easier to run for-profit organizations than not. Is that not so, sir? Because they will be measuring you based on intangibles most times. But for a business, it's about the bottom line. All the bottom line. When the late Rufus Giwa was the MD of Lever Brothers, they were making money, but the man was a pain in the ass of even his deputy directors. Usually unpopular inside, but to the directors, is the man of see money. So there must be critical success. So for you with this, you can actually craft a strategy. At this point that we're at, you can craft a strategy. McDonald's, I think they've changed it now. McDonald's, their vision was so very short to be the best quick service restaurant. That was all. Nike's is to be the best whatever for athletes, the best sports whatever wear for athletes. You now know what they did? They didn't stop there. They put full stop. They now said, if you have a physical body, you are an athlete. In parentheses, in their vision statement. What are they communicating? It's not only for professional.
Yeah,
If you have a physical body, you are an athlete. I know it's true. If you get not here, but in the US, most of their jobs, they are on their feet. And you can't be wearing these shoes now. That's why they now came with shoes and what they call it, memory foam shoes. They carry your weight. They don't make you feel pain on the leg. So if you see somebody who has been standing for long, you want to copy the person, you better look at it what is wearing before you wound yourself. There is something that is sustaining. So when they say that, the mission statement will now elaborate on it by itemizing the products, the services to be into to get to that, and then the kind of values. When you have those values expressly, very overtly stated, one of the things that does for you is that in bringing people into your organization, you must see those values demonstrable in them. I tell you, in our security services, who do you think, which kind of people do you think should be in our security services? Must be patriotic, intelligent, they must have respect for diversity, and so on and so forth. But what happens when a man you used to know selling hemp in the bus stop, suddenly see him with AK-47 in police uniform, without any conversion story? So every organization must have that kind of. These values will enable you to ensure that you people your organization with those who have those traits and values that the organization hold very high. Any question at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
We talked about vision setting and mission statement. The vehicle to our destination is mission statement. And the vision setting is about what we desire, the destination we desire to take that. So I want you to differentiate one. Because I'm running the women organization, Patriotic Women Foundation. And our vision is to get more women involved in politics. That is more women participation in politics. So I want you to expand.
Good. So when you want to craft your vision, must be around that objective. Our organization is established to see more women. You can put a kind of qualification to the level of, is it equal participation of women in politics or representation in political office? Because women actually outnumber men when it comes to
40. Yes.
and even in the political, go to a typical political party meeting. You see more women there. But they are there to clap for the aspirants who will come and address them and give them Ankara and the rest when they are doing.
But for them to come and
Be inside the office.
So you want that, your vision is to see more women in political office. Let's take that as a vision. But can you achieve it by just writing it down? One, your mission will now include to have more women in political, joining, registering in political parties. But if you are not a member of a political party in Nigeria, you cannot hold elected
position.
public office, political office. Number two, after joining, they must be active financially in the political parties. Why? Because if you don't spend money, that if you are to be in politics, you need to spend money. You are not going there to take. You are going to give. Two, educating them, political education, and so on and so forth. You highlight those ones will be. You can, when you have them itemized, you can now craft a statement that will encapsulate all of those things as a vision. You see, a vision statement will come after you already, a mission statement will come after you already have the things you want to do. You will now look for a language expert to help you capture that. Is it clear now? Okay. All right.
Yeah, thank you very much. You said in any sector they have dominant player, running players, weak operators, sponsors. Yeah, you were able to give us example of capital, but I want to throw more light on weak operators. Sometimes you can move from weak operator to onslaught. Or we can move all around.
No, you have the dominant, I mean the leaders, dominant player. You have leaders, you have runners up, and then you have weak operators. That's the cascading. You can move with strategy. You can move. If you know, Access Bank is the largest bank in Nigeria by assets now. Access Bank. What happens? It's a conglomeration of many banks. So by assets, they are bigger than First Bank. Sir? Yes. So they became the home for most of these legacy, banks. So when you put all their assets, and they did it systematically. The last one was when they entered into that relationship with Diamond Bank. So can do it through acquisition, can do it through measures. In fact, there are so many examples in the business of that. So when you have weak operators, for instance, at the time that Pepsi was fighting Coca-Cola, there were also small, whatever, Limca, those sports, those companies producing all those things. If they had come together, they would have been more formidable in fighting Coca-Cola. But rather than do that, it was Coca-Cola that acquired Limca and those sports. They acquired them and shredded all the, and that, no, they don't shred, but it's not related. They killed the brand. So you can do in politics, in Nigerian politics, what happened in 2015? Is it not the sort of what happened in the corporate world? So yeah. Oh, sorry, madam, after madam.
Okay. I was able to get what you said concerning these 3 players. And the second one, the running player.
The runner.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
it's very clear.
Okay, the example is that let's assume for the purpose of this class that we are in 2010. So Coca-Cola, the leader in fizzy drinks, in carbonated drinks. Pepsi, runner up. And then all the other ones, Pandit, Guarana, Ghost Sport, Dr. Pepper, and all of them, weak operators. And in every industry, it's like that. In banking, you have the leaders, you have the runners up, and then you have the weak operator. But a very good example of a weak operator was Wema Bank. When Wema, after consolidation, Wema Bank saw that it was weak, and then was it Sanusi that came up with the different banks for banks? You had national, I mean those national banks, and then you have regional banks. Wema Bank decided to step down to becoming the regional bank. But after consolidating as a regional bank, they have bounced back now as a national bank. So they have moved from being a weak operator now to a runner. I mean, yes, okay, so, okay, yes, your final things. For now.
Thank you so much. Yeah, but when you talked about the nature of strategy, and then you talked about the strategy is yes, evasive and elusive. So what I understand is that you don't divulge your strategy, as it were, to maybe a competitor or something like that. Now, this question I want to ask, especially in the military, when you have 2 warring factions and all that, okay, what do you do when a group comes up with a strategy? How do you ensure that it is discreet? Because if one of the core players divulge that strategy, then your opponent will have what kind of back.
You know, in every organization, you have the strategic leadership, you have the operational leadership, you have the functional leadership, and then you have every other person. In the military, when you hear in the military, you have unit commands, then general commands before the HQ. So at the level, then you have the branch chiefs. At the level of strategizing, it is from the command up. The soldiers only listen to command instructions. Even if you show them, they don't understand. And that's why they tell you that wars are won in the war rooms, not in the field. Because so that once they say move at so 0 something hours, that's when the soldiers will move. No, they are not. Well, actually, when you say so, it don't be as negative connotation, but what it means is that military everywhere, and you see the critical nature of command, of strategy. The army is fighting the same war. The army and the air force of the country are fighting the same enemy, but they are not the same strategy. The strategy, there is no strategy. Strategy is coherence. Okay. The air force will have its role. The army may not even know that the air force is going, but the timing must be right. So that they don't collapse. So don't go and blow.
All right. All right.
Oh,
okay.
From what he said, he said something about diverging the strategy. Now, the other time, he said something similar when you use the linker and now he wants to form a very strong force. The tendency of losing the individuality
is a big problem. I know why when we talk about Nigerian politics, the problem is actually with the elites. You have in Nigeria now, you have two big parties, right? Who says there cannot be? When you look at the people in those parties, they are actually minorities of the rest of us. Is that not?
Yes.
Even if I ask you now, how many of you voted in the last election? If you have voter cards, you have it for protective reasons. You know what I'm saying? But let's bring it to business. Tony Lumelu had a bank in the 90s. What's the name of the bank? No. Standard Trust Bank. Standard Trust Bank. Standard Trust, I won't go through the process. No, we're already Standard Trust Bank practically took over UBA. But Tony Lumelu did not call the bigger bank now, Standard Trust Bank. It retains UBA. Because that name aligns with his vision. His vision is when this established Standard Trust Bank, the vision of Standard Trust Bank is to become the biggest banking conglomerate in Africa. I already have a name that conveys that United Bank of Africa. So those are the petty things that we don't want to go through. And you know, if you have 100% of 10, you still have 10. But 10% of 1,000 is 100. What I'm saying is that we don't want to be a small fish in big water. We want to be a big fish in a small water. It's a basic Nigerian, maybe Africa, I don't know, mindset. So I say I won't do Nigeria mindset.
So that I can have control.
So that
In a small water. A big fish in a small water.
yes.
Fish is or a small water.
They don't know this movie. I'm coming. Let me make it to address your question. You know CNN. Who founded CNN? CNN is today a Time Warner company.
Yes.
But Ted Turner
Yes.
founded CNN. But it's not, he doesn't have nobody.
Yeah.
No, but he's quietly, he has just about 10% of CNN now.
Oh, right.
Yes, but he's a comfortable person. Because the experts, Time Warner, have whatever it takes to push CNN to the level it is now. And there are some Nigerian businesses too. There are some of the people you see who are stupendously rich, but you can't attach them to a name. And they are not in politics.
Yes.
They have small whatever in the big.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we need to pause now. Like I already intimated, our strategy is so compelling. So we need to really guide us in terms of timing. So what we'll be doing right now are three major things. First, let me appreciate every one of you. Please give yourselves a round of applause. Fantastic. Nobody has stood up. Everybody has been sitting down. And that tells me it's a level of concentration and intense engagement. But we need to break now so that we don't overstretch that. So three things are going to happen right now. Number one, we'll go for a short break. As you're going for the short break, like Edie has already said, we are being refreshed by Biggie. So we have water, we have easy products, we have the cola, and we have the orange with snack. So we're going to go out there. That's number three. We're going to go out to take the group photograph now. So in that sense, you are stretching your leg. Then when you after taking the group photograph, you can come in, take water, take the snack, take the drinks. It's all for you. And then we'll take maybe by 1:45 or 10 minutes to 1. You can then resume back. If there's a bit of one question you need to ask, then by 1, you continue the process. I already had this fear. Let me tell you my fear. I was already thinking that I might not be able to go through all the slides that he has there. But maybe you can, okay, what I can do, okay, because we intend this to end this program by 2. By 2. By 2. And that would then mean that as we're ending by 2, your lunch will be ready in a pack. So you can just take it along and take it along. So we are conscious of time. To try is also about time. It's about time. So we'll take that. But of course, after that time, those who can still have the time to want to stay back, interact with the facilitator is here. You can we'll have closed the class. And you can take your food and go. And those